They say real power announces itself loudly, but the truth is far more unsettling. The most dangerous man in any room is not the one raising his voice, pounding his chest, or demanding attention. No, the most dangerous man is the one who doesn't need to speak at all. He doesn't chase respect. He doesn't perform for it. While others scramble to be seen, talking over one another, seeking validation, showing dominance, the truly powerful man allows silence to speak for him. He doesn't demand space. He simply enters a room and the air shifts. You've felt it before, that quiet presence that draws every eye without effort. Maybe it was a man in a meeting who barely said a word, yet everyone looked to him for direction. Or perhaps it was the man at the bar who didn't posture or brag, but commanded attention nonetheless. What was it that drew you to him? Confidence, yes, but it's more than that. It's control, not just of the room, but of himself. In a world that worships noise, social media rants, instant reactions, public confrontation, the calm, silent man is a paradox. He doesn't play the game because he doesn't need the win that others chase. His silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. His calm isn't passivity. It's power. You can't provoke him because he doesn't need to defend himself. You can't read him because he shows nothing he doesn't want you to see. And that makes him dangerous. Not because he's violent, but because he's unpredictable. While others burn themselves out trying to be heard, trying to prove their worth, he watches. He waits. He gathers information while others reveal themselves through their noise. And when he finally moves, he moves with precision, not to impress, but to win. This isn't arrogance. It's mastery. Mastery of presence. Mastery of emotion. Mastery of perception. Because in a world drowning in attention-seeking behavior, the man who moves in silence becomes a mystery, and nothing is more captivating or more terrifying than the unknown. Violence is loud. Intelligence is silent. This is the first truth Niccolò Machiavelli understood centuries ago, and it's a truth most men still haven't grasped. In business, in politics, in relationships, it's rarely the loudest voice that wins. Often it's the quiet one, the one who listens, who plans, who lets others underestimate him, that controls the outcome. The loudest in the room usually reveal the most. Their fears, their desperation, their weaknesses. They mistake volume for strength and reaction for power. But they don't realize that every outburst, every impulsive move, gives away the map to their mind. And once your enemy has that map, he knows where to strike. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote, "It is better to appear strong than to reveal your vulnerabilities trying to prove strength." The key word is appear. In the game of power, perception is the battlefield long before a fight ever breaks out. And the man who controls how he is seen, who carefully shapes what others perceive, wins before the first blow is ever thrown. The man who cannot be provoked, who maintains composure when others are falling apart, is the man who controls the battlefield. He doesn't overreact. He doesn't defend himself against every slight. He doesn't flinch at insults, because he knows that reacting emotionally gives away control. And control is the one thing he refuses to lose. While others feel powerful when they're loud, he remains still, knowing stillness makes people uneasy. The more uncertain people are about you, the more they fear you. And fear, even silent, subtle fear, is influence. In any arena, negotiation, leadership, love, it's not the desperate man who gets results. It's the composed one. The man who doesn't beg for respect earns it. The man who doesn't fight for validation commands it. Loudness is emotion. Quiet is calculation. Emotion is predictable. And anything predictable is easy to defeat. But the unreadable man, the calm one, he's the wild card. You never know what he's thinking when he'll act or how. And that's what makes him terrifying. Machiavelli warned that to rule, a man must be both feared and respected, but never so open that others can predict his moves. Because power isn't about being known. It's about being unknowable. The moment they can read you, they can manipulate you. But if you remain a question, if they're unsure what you'll do, unsure how far you'll go, unsure of what you're truly capable of, then you've already won. You don't win by being loud. You win by being the presence they can't figure out, the silence that unnerves them long after you've left the room. When you walk into a space, people size you up in seconds. Before you even speak, they make judgments. Are you a threat? Are you confident? Are you someone to challenge or someone to avoid? And here's the secret most never realize. 90% of that judgment isn't based on what you say. It's based on how you carry yourself. It's your posture, your eye contact, your calm energy. When others react in panic and you remain composed, you send a powerful message. I am not afraid. I am in control. And control, even silently displayed, is magnetic. It draws people in. It unsettles enemies. It turns the tide in your favor before the battle even begins. Because the man who reacts emotionally shows where he's weak. He opens himself up to attack. But the man who controls his expression, his posture, his tone, he reveals nothing. He becomes a mirror that reflects others' insecurities back at them. They can't read him. They can't plan against him. And in that uncertainty, they hesitate. They overthink. They fear. All while he remains still, watching, waiting, deciding whether he even needs to strike. This is not about being emotionless. It's about weaponizing restraint. It's about choosing when, where, and how to act. It's about understanding that in the modern world, visibility is vulnerability. And those who show too much lose too much. Machiavelli said it best, men judge more by the eye than the hand. Because while many see you, few truly know you. Translation: what matters most is not who you are, but who they think you are. Appear strong, even when you doubt yourself. Appear calm, even when chaos surrounds you. Appear collected, even when the ground beneath you is shaking. Because when others perceive strength, they hesitate. And that moment of hesitation, that flicker of doubt, is where victory begins. Control how they see you, and you control how they treat you. Master your silence. Master your image. Become the question mark in their minds. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let them project their own fears onto you. And in that confusion, in that uncertainty, you dominate. Because in the end, the man who doesn't need to speak is the man they can't stop thinking about. He's not just powerful. He's unforgettable. They say that when a man cannot be read, he becomes the one no enemy can truly defeat. Power, in its most potent form, isn't always loud or obvious. It isn't always revealed in muscle, dominance, or raw force. Sometimes, power disguises itself in weakness. In a world obsessed with appearing strong, where dominance is mistaken for control and noise for authority, the most effective tactic is the one no one expects. To feign weakness, to play the fool, to allow others to believe you are broken. Because when an enemy thinks you're weak, when they no longer consider you a threat, they let their guard down. And in that moment, they reveal far more than they would to a direct challenge. That moment of underestimation is your true opportunity. That's when their strategies, their assumptions, their arrogance become the very tools you'll use to dismantle them. Machiavelli warned that a wise man must often appear weak when he is strong, and strong when he is weak. Why? Because the man who postures, who shows his hand too early, inspires caution. But the man who apologizes, who shrinks, who steps back when challenged, he invites arrogance. And arrogance always blinds. In today's world, most men are addicted to their own image. They wear their strength on their sleeve, hoping their volume, their ego, their performance will command respect. But true power isn't earned by screaming the loudest or showing off the most. It's taken silently through perception. The real masters of the game know this. They understand that the most dangerous strategy is misdirection. To seem harmless, to lower your profile so that others feel safe, superior, unthreatened. Because when people believe they've already won, they stop preparing. When they think you're broken, they stop defending. They get comfortable. They make mistakes. They reveal their blueprints. And you simply wait. You don't need to kick down the gates. You let them open the doors for you, smiling all the while. And when the timing is perfect, when every piece is where it needs to be, you strike cleanly, precisely, without warning. This is not cowardice. It is patience weaponized. It's psychological warfare in its purest, most effective form. Invisibility, when used correctly, is deadlier than intimidation. Because the invisible man is the one no one sees coming. The man who limps through the crowd, who draws no attention, who seems fragile and unimportant, he's the one no one prepares for. And by the time they realize their mistake, by the time they understand the quiet strength he carries, it's already too late. History remembers this kind of man well. The greatest generals didn't charge blindly into enemy fire. They waited, they deceived, they laid traps. The sharpest negotiators didn't reveal their positions. They let others overplay theirs. The same rules apply across all arenas of life. In business, in relationships, in politics, in war. The wise man appears harmless, even weak, while quietly setting the stage for complete domination. Then, when a moment is right, he removes everything, respect, resources, allies, until there's nothing left to resist him. This strategy isn't about being fake, it's about being smart. It's about understanding that the ego is most people's greatest weakness. Their desperate need to feel dominant, to be validated, to be seen as superior, becomes the very thing that leads them to their downfall. A true tactician lets them have that illusion. He lets them believe they've won. He uses their ego to position himself, silently, patiently, until there's nowhere left for them to run. Strength alone isn't enough. What matters is timing. And timing belongs to the one who watches quietly from the shadows. But there's another rule, one even more important than patience. When you strike, you must finish. Not halfway, not politely, absolutely. Because a wounded enemy is far more dangerous than a defeated one. This is where most fail. They inflict damage but leave dignity. They hurt someone but let them walk away with resources, with hope, with the ability to fight another day. But pain breeds obsession, and obsession transforms into retaliation. A man who's been hurt, who lies awake at night remembering the sting of humiliation, will not rest until he gets even, and when he returns, he will be smarter, colder, more dangerous. The enemies you leave breathing today will come for you tomorrow with better weapons and sharper minds. Victory is not just about winning the battle in front of you. It's about eliminating the possibility of any future threat. In the modern world, this doesn't always mean physical defeat. It means isolation. It means cutting off influence, closing doors, draining opportunities until there is no platform left for your opponent to rebuild upon. No reputation to salvage. No allies to lean on. No oxygen left in a room. That's how a war is truly won. Not with explosions, but with silence. Not with drama, but with finality. The man who knows this doesn't need to brag. He doesn't parade his success. He finishes the task quietly, efficiently, and moves on without a word. Because real power is proven not through noise, but through results. We see this at every level. In business, the most ruthless operators don't just outperform, they eliminate the competition's ability to regroup. They dominate the market, then quietly shut every exit. In politics, the most effective leaders don't just win elections, they destroy the machinery that supports their rivals. In personal rivalries, those with true vision don't just win arguments, they rewrite the story so completely that no one even remembers there's another side. Because mercy, while noble in theory, is a luxury that can't be afforded when the stakes are high. If you strike in a way that ends the conflict. No back and forth. No second chances. No rise from the ashes revenge stories. This isn't cruelty. It's survival. Because every battle you leave unfinished becomes a storm waiting to return. The enemy you humiliated but didn't destroy is the one who studies you, adapts, and returns. Harder, smarter, more ruthless. Machiavelli wrote that injuries should be dealt all at once, in a single blow, because if they're dragged out, they offend more deeply. But if the damage is complete, swift, and final, it leaves no room for revenge. Inflict the pain quickly, so much, so that they don't realize they've lost until it's far too late. And once it's over, disappear. No explanations, no apologies, No second acts. The man who does this, the man who ends his battles with silence, with precision, with no survivors, he's not just a winner. He's untouchable. He doesn't fight the same war twice, because he knows that half measures guarantee revenge. But finality? Finality guarantees peace. True power doesn't simply defeat threats, it erases them entirely. Many people believe power is all about action, but the real essence of power lies in patience. The most devastating strikes aren't the ones that happen immediately. They come after long, deliberate silence, when the enemy has already destroyed themselves from within. Machiavelli understood this concept deeply. He knew that time is not merely a measurement, it is a weapon. And when used correctly, time achieves what brute force can never accomplish. When someone offends, disrespects, or tries to provoke, the natural instinct is to react, fire back, prove something. But that's exactly what the enemy wants. The man who reacts quickly is the one who exposes himself. The true strategist, however, does the opposite. He waits, he listens, he watches. He lets the enemy think they've won, lets them relax, lets them get comfortable, sloppy, arrogant. And all the while he says nothing. He doesn't deny, he doesn't defend. He lets the rumors swirl, lets fear take root. Because silence is not weakness. Silence is psychological warfare. When a man refuses to react, he creates a mirror, forcing his enemies to confront themselves. They start overthinking, second-guessing, wondering what might be coming next. What revenge is in store? When it will strike? No threats are necessary. No action is needed. The enemy's own imagination becomes their executioner. That's the psychological mirror. Humans fear uncertainty more than pain. The fear of the unknown paralyzes far more effectively than any direct threat. Master silence and turn the unknown into a weapon. The enemy fears what they can't see, can't predict, can't control. Every day that they hear nothing from you, their fear intensifies. With each passing moment of silence, their paranoia grows. They weaken from within. They lose allies, make mistakes, operate under fear instead of logic, and isolate themselves, all without you lifting a finger. When they are most isolated, exhausted, and broken, that's when you move. Not with emotion, not with drama, surgically. By then, the battle is already over. They lost the moment they allowed fear to infect their minds. Machiavelli's genius wasn't in teaching how to defeat enemies through force. It was in teaching how to defeat them with doubt. Force is messy. Force is obvious. But psychological erosion is clean and invisible. Once it begins, it cannot be stopped. This is the true art of war in the modern world, not with fists, not with rage, but with silence sharpened by time. You don't need to crush them in the spotlight. You let them destroy themselves in the shadows. Time, patience, and strategic stillness, these are the weapons of men who cannot be defeated. In a world obsessed with instant reactions, the man who remains still the longest, the one who stays unreadable, the one who lets others collapse under the weight of their own panic, that is the man who wins without ever having to fight. The true battlefield isn't a person. It's the environment. Control the environment, and you control the outcome. Most men make the fatal mistake of thinking power is about confrontation. They believe victory comes from overpowering their opponent directly. It doesn't. Direct confrontation is messy, risky, emotional, and worst of all, it gives your enemy a chance to resist, to fight, to rally support. Machiavelli understood the deeper game. If you want to win without chaos, without exposure, you don't attack the man, you attack the conditions around him. You isolate him. You change the battlefield because no matter how strong someone is, if the ground beneath their feet crumbles, they will fall. This is the art of environmental control. You don't force people to change, you make it impossible for them to survive unless they adapt to you. You don't demand submission. You alter the rules of engagement until submission becomes their only option. It's the chess master's mentality. You don't capture the king by chasing it. You set traps. You block escape routes. You strip away support until the king has nowhere left to go. Apply this strategy everywhere. In business, shift deadlines, reframe negotiations, control key relationships. Make it so your opponent has to move on your terms or not move at all. In social circles, subtly influence opinions, sow doubts, change the dynamics until they lose allies without even realizing why. In personal rivalries, withdraw attention, remove resources, isolate their influence until their voice grows smaller every day. You don't attack the person directly. You attack their ability to operate. You cut the fuel lines, not the engine. The beauty of this method? It's invisible. It doesn't trigger the emotional defenses. By the time the enemy realizes what's happening, it's already too late. They're standing alone, out of moves, and you're already 3 steps ahead. Isolation doesn't just weaken, it paralyzes. A man surrounded by support fights harder. But a man who feels abandoned, uncertain, cut off, he starts questioning himself. He second-guesses every move, loses the will to resist. Once that will is gone, the battle is already over. The true strategist isn't obsessed with dominance. He's obsessed with positioning. You don't need to destroy your opponent violently. You simply build a world around them where every decision, every step, every move leads them closer to checkmate. It's silent warfare, slow erosion, inevitable collapse. And once it's done, you don't need to boast. You don't have to prove anything. The battlefield will speak for you. Their silence, their isolation, their disappearance will be the loudest proof of your victory. This is the final level of power. Not brute strength, not emotional reaction, not direct confrontation. It's environmental domination. It's psychological invisibility. It's the ability to reshape the very ground your enemies stand on. When you master this, you don't just win battles, you end them before they even begin. Power isn't about noise. It's about control of yourself, of perception of the battlefield itself. Most men live and die chasing respect the wrong way. They shout, they fight, they bleed for attention that was never worth it. But now you know the deeper game, the silent game, the game of patience, invisibility, and positioning. True dominance isn't won by force. It's won by mastering 3 things: your emotions, your timing, and your environment. Move when others are still reacting. Strike when others have fallen into their own traps. Disappear while others are still bragging about battles you already ended. This isn't just a strategy, it's survival. In a world that rewards the man who cannot be shaken, cannot be read, and cannot be trapped. Now, ask yourself, are you still playing checkers when the real players are playing chess? Are you reacting, or are you shaping the battlefield? Are you chasing respect, or are you commanding it without a word? If you're ready to stop playing the loud, predictable game and start moving in silence with purpose and precision, then this is your call. Drop a comment below. Tell me one moment when you stayed silent and it gave you the advantage, or one moment where you wish you had. Let's sharpen each other. Let's move differently, because in a world of noise, the man who masters silence masters everything.